Map true stories. Everyone thought my marriage was perfect. And for a long time, I thought so too. We met in our mid-20s, both responsible, both ambitious, both tired of chaos. He was steady, reliable, the kind of person your parents immediately approved of. And I liked that. After years of uncertainty, stability felt like love. We dated for 3 years, got married quietly. No drama, no big fights. People used words like healthy, solid, bo. Goals. And on paper, they were right. We bought a house, adopted a dog, built routines, Sunday grocery runs, shared calendars, joint savings. Everything looked balanced, but somewhere along the way, I stopped asking myself how I felt and started asking whether things were reasonable instead. At first, it showed up in small ways. If I wanted to go out with friends, he'd sigh. Not forbid it. Just remind me how tired he was. How long it had been since we'd had quality time. So I'd stay in. If I had a rough day at work, he'd listen. But then, gently explain how I could have handled it better. So I stopped venting. If I disagreed with him, he'd stay calm. Almost too calm. He never raised his voice, never insulted me, he just explained. Slowly, patiently, why my reaction didn't make sense. Why my feelings were exaggerated. Why my expectations were unrealistic. And I believed him, because he wasn't cruel. He wasn't angry. He was reasonable. And reasonable people don't hurt you. Right. Years passed. I became very good at adjusting. Shrinking plans, softening opinions, choosing peace. I told myself this was maturity, compromise, marriage. But the truth was, I was doing all the bending. Then one night, something small happened. I was invited to a weekend trip with friends, just 2 days. I told him, already prepared to negotiate. He paused, then said, I just don't understand why you need this. Not want. Need. I explained I hadn't traveled without him in years. He nodded. Then said, I guess I just thought we were past that phase. That sentence landed heavier than it should have. Past what phase? Being independent? Having space? Wanting things that weren't about him? I said. I still want to go. And for the first time, I didn't soften it, didn't justify, didn't apologize. I just said it. He went quiet. Not angry, not emotional, just distant. That weekend first, he barely spoke to me. When I returned, nothing had happened, but everything felt different from that point on. Anytime I said no, there was a cost. No to hosting his family. No to rearranging my schedule. No to skipping something important to me. He never argued. He just withdrew. Affection faded. Conversations shortened. And somehow, I always ended up apologizing. Not for what I did, but for how it made him feel. Then came the moment I couldn't ignore. We were at a dinner with friends. Someone joked about how easygoing I was. How nothing ever bothers you. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. But inside, something broke. Because I realized they didn't know me. They knew the version of me that never asked for anything. That night, I cried in the bathroom. Quietly. So he wouldn't hear. And for the first time, I asked myself a terrifying question. If I stopped accommodating, would there be anything left? A few weeks later, I tried again. I told him I wanted to change jobs, something more fulfilling. Even if it meant less money at first. He listened, then calmly explained why it was a bad idea, the timing, the risk, the inconvenience. He ended with, "I just don't think this is about your career. I think you're just restless." That was the moment, because I realized any desire I had that didn't align with his comfort was labeled a flaw, and suddenly I wasn't a partner. I was a problem to be managed. I didn't leave that day, but something shifted. I stopped explaining, stopped asking permission, stopped justifying. I started saying no, simply, clearly. And the more I did, the colder things became, until one night, he finally said it out loud. "I don't know who you are anymore." And I realized he never knew me. He knew who I was when I was agreeable, when I was quiet, when I made life easy. The next morning, I packed a bag. Not in anger, not dramatically, just calmly. He watched me, confused, asked where I was going. I said, "I need space." He told me I was overreacting, that we had a good life, that people would kill for what we had. And he was right. But a good life that costs you yourself isn't a good life. Leaving wasn't loud. There was no betrayal, no scandal, just the quiet understanding. That love shouldn't feel like disappearing. Months later, people still ask what went wrong. I tell them the truth. Nothing happened. I just finally stopped saying yes to everything that hurt me